Welcome to my channel. Have you ever walked past a penny on the sidewalk, thought about picking it up, but shrugged and walked away? Just a 1-cent coin, right? Virtually worthless? Well, after today's story, you may never look at a penny the same way again, because this isn't just any penny, it's a 2007 USA Lincoln penny, marked with a Roosevelt D mint mark. To the average eye, it looks like a common coin. Tiny. Brown. Everyday. But beneath that ordinary appearance lies a fascinating tale of history, design, precision, and value that just might change the way you think about pocket change forever. Let's take a trip back. Not to 2007 just yet, but even further, to the origins of the Lincoln penny itself. The year was 1909. The United States was preparing to commemorate the 100th birthday of one of its most revered presidents, Abraham Lincoln. The U.S. Mint, for the first time ever, decided to place the portrait of a real person, an actual historical figure, on an American coin. Before then, coins featured symbolic figures like Lady Liberty or allegorical representations of liberty and freedom, but Abraham Lincoln? That was a bold move. Lincoln had become an enduring symbol of honesty, courage, and unity, and in the early 20th century, his image had grown even more iconic in American culture. And so, in 1909, the Lincoln cent was born, featuring a design by sculptor Victor David Brenner. His portrait of Lincoln, facing right, sharp-eyed, and composed, was inspired by a photograph taken by Matthew Brady, and that year, in 2007, something seemingly unremarkable happened. Millions of Lincoln pennies were minted and released into circulation. Most were overlooked, tossed into jars, left in cup holders, or passed over for shinier coins. But among these ordinary cents, a few carried a secret. A mint mark, D, not indicating Roosevelt, but rather the Denver Mint, as per standard U.S. minting practice. But here's where it gets interesting. While millions were indeed produced, only a small number had peculiar characteristics that would make collectors take notice. Some 2007 Lincoln pennies have been found in mint state 68 or higher, a phenomenal rating for a coin meant for general circulation. Combine that with subtle die varieties, such as doubling of Lincoln's eye, irregularities in the lettering, or signs of an over-polished die, and you've got a coin that suddenly isn't so common anymore. But there's more to this story than just a rare error. The Lincoln penny has long served as a time capsule, capturing not just a man's image, but an entire nation's evolution. The reverse of the 2007 coin still bore the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It was created by Frank Gasparo and depicted the iconic Washington, D.C. structure with exquisite detail. If you look closely enough, you can even make out a tiny figure of Lincoln seated inside, the only U.S. coin design that includes a statue within a building. This design would soon be replaced. In 2009, to celebrate Lincoln's 200th birthday, the Mint released 4 new reverse designs chronicling his life, from a log cabin in Kentucky to the U.S. Capitol dome under construction. So, the 2007 version represents one of the last years of the Lincoln Memorial reverse. This, in turn, gives it an added layer of historical significance. It was one of the final echoes of an era before the major redesign. The color, the shine, the texture, it all seems different. You send it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC, and they confirm it, mint state 68. Suddenly, your penny, a coin worth just 1 cent, has a new value, $138. Yes, $138. For a penny, and it's not just about money. That coin becomes a story. A discovery. A piece of American history in the palm of your hand. It reminds us that sometimes, the most overlooked objects can carry the deepest value. It's a lesson in awareness, attention to detail, and the hidden treasures in everyday life. There are many reasons why coins like the 2007 Lincoln penny are worth so much. First, scarcity in condition. As mentioned, the vast majority of coins enter circulation and get worn down. Finding a coin from nearly 2 decades ago in gem condition is rare. Second, the growing interest in coin collecting. With the rise of online marketplaces, YouTube channels, and TikTok influencers who specialize in rare finds, numismatics has seen a resurgence, especially among younger generations. Suddenly, there's a global community eager to discover and trade these hidden gems. So, the next time you receive change from a cashier, take a second look. Examine the date. Spot the mint mark. Ask yourself, is this just a penny, or is it a hidden treasure, because someone out there picked up a 2007 D Lincoln penny, thought to look a little closer, and discovered it was worth $138. That's a 13,700% increase from its face value. Not bad for a piece of copper-plated zinc. It's amazing how much history, art, economics, and even philosophy can be packed into something as small as a coin. From Abraham Lincoln's legacy to modern minting techniques, from historical transitions to collector passions, the 2007 D Lincoln penny tells a story far richer than its size suggests. So, don't overlook the small things. They just might be priceless. Let me guide you through a journey that begins not with numbers or dates, but with an image, a small, coppery disc, deceptively simple yet brimming with stories. That humble penny, minted in 1984 at the Denver Mint, bearing the letter D, is more than just a coin. It's a portal into American history, art, industry, and human passion. And today, by the time we're done, you'll understand why that unassuming 1984 D Lincoln penny can command a surprising, and impressive, $114. Imagine the year is 1984. Ronald Reagan is in the White House, and "where's the beef?" is a question on everyone's lips. Shoppers fill suburban supermarkets. The world watches the Olympics in Los Angeles. But even in a world defined by bigger headlines and flashier trends, the story of one of these ordinary pennies is waiting to be told. Let's talk design. On the obverse, the familiar Lincoln bust faces right, dignified and solemn. Still, the artistry endures. On the reverse, two stalks of wheat flank the inscription, 1 cent, a holdover design that would give way in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial. But in 1984, that reverse design was already gone. The memorial had been on the reverse since 1959. So the 1984 penny bears the Jefferson Memorial, stone-detailed and serene, where Lincoln's figure stands walking inside the hall. Overhead, the motto, "Pieces of America's Creed, e pluribus unum." Production of the 1984 D Lincoln cent was not small. Millions were made, intended for everyday commerce. Yet, even among common coins, gems emerge. Quality varies with production pressures and die wear. Some die pairs produce crisp, sharp strikes. Others, where dies are worn or pressured, yield softer details, making small diagnostics all the more important for collectors. In 1984, there were a few notable die varieties and errors. Close to the die lipping, where the margin dips slightly, is one such beauty. Another is the clear S mintmark variety, though in 1984 that's more often associated with San Francisco proofs. On the circulation pieces like the 1984 D, well-struck specimens with sharp detail on Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and coat drape can make all the difference. If you find one in brilliant uncirculated condition, MS65 or above, its value climbs significantly compared to worn cents, which brings us to our big reveal at the end of the story. That steep yet justified value of $114. This is not fiction. This is the market speaking. To command that, the coin must be virtually flawless, sharp struck, with blazing luster, strong eye appeal, and no detracting marks. Graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC, the certification seals the coin's pedigree and gives confidence to buyers and sellers alike. But beyond price, why does this penny resonate? It's accessible history. It's a symbol of Abraham Lincoln, of the American experiment, minted in a time still within living memory. It's a quest for beauty in the ordinary. When collectors seek out these pennies, they're not just looking for copper discs, they're looking for perfection, for connection, for a piece of the past held in their hand. And there's another thread, the psychology of collecting. We see an everyday object, think worthless, then discover it's worth much more, and suddenly it's exciting. That thrill, finding a rare gem in the pocket change, is why people hunt coins in circulation, sorting through rolls or scattering through old collections. That moment when the eye catches a flash of mint luster, that spark is the magic. It's why someone would pick up that 1984 D, take it to a coin show, submit it for grading, and wait for confirmation that it's MS68. And when grading returns confirming it, and the sale closes at $114, that story is complete. Now, if you're watching this video and you've got a 1984 D penny in your pocket or album, take a good look. Compare it to images of MS67 and MS68 examples. Check for luster that's as lively as new, fields as reflective as mirrors, and devices, the bust, the memorial, as crisply struck as they were in the mint. If yours matches, consider having it graded. Your pocket treasure might turn into something surprisingly valuable. If it's a common, well-circulated example, maybe set it aside for face value, or sentimental value. After all, even a worn penny is still a witness to decades of transactions, history, and hands it's passed through, and that's the essence of the story. A seemingly ordinary coin, born in 1984 in Denver, becomes legendary through condition, history, and preservation. The story isn't in the mint stamp or the copper alloy, it's in how closely that penny approaches perfection, and in the connection it forms with collectors who value the intersection of history and craftsmanship. So there you have it, a sprawling, engaged journey from the general to the specific, from the historical to the numismatic, from the design desk of Victor David Brenner to the gleaming slab of MS68 perfection. From the streets of everyday commerce to the top tier of collectors' showcases. And finally, to a number that will surprise you, one that elevates the humble 1984 D Lincoln penny to $114. Let's take a step back in time to the year 1974. It was a period of great change and uncertainty in the United States. The Vietnam War was winding down, Richard Nixon had just resigned amid the Watergate scandal, and Americans were grappling with economic instability, inflation, and soaring energy prices. The mood was tense, and the country was undergoing a shift not just politically and socially, but even in areas you might not expect. Like coinage, while the world watched as new leaders took the stage and new cultural movements rose to prominence, something far quieter but still historically significant was happening in the United States Mint. In Denver, Colorado, a familiar face was stamped once again onto a small, copper coin, the humble 1-cent piece. But in that year, something made the 1974 Lincoln penny, especially the one bearing the D mint mark, a point of curiosity and interest for collectors and historians alike. This isn't just a story about copper and zinc. This is a story about American legacy, about subtle changes that go unnoticed until they become meaningful years later. The 1974 D Lincoln penny may not sparkle with gold or silver, but what it represents is far more valuable to numismatists, a piece of living history you can hold in your hand. Let's start with the design. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of American currency since 1909, introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait, and who better than the 16th president, whose leadership during the Civil War and legacy as the great emancipator made him a timeless American icon. On the reverse, back in 1974, the Lincoln Memorial was still the standard design, an image added in 1959 to replace the earlier wheat ears. The reverse design was crafted by Frank Gasparo, and it's worth pausing for a moment to appreciate how clever it is. At first glance, you just see the grand white columns of the Lincoln Memorial. But look closely, very closely, and you'll notice something extraordinary, a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, visible right between the columns. That kind of attention to detail in such a small space is what makes these coins a wonder to behold under magnification. The D mint mark, of course, stands for the Denver Mint. It means this particular coin was minted in Denver, one of the major mints operating alongside the Philadelphia and San Francisco facilities. That year, the Denver Mint struck well over 4 billion Lincoln cents. Yes, billion, with a B. On the surface, this massive mintage would make you think the coin is incredibly common, and indeed, for the most part, it is, some 1974 D pennies exhibit unique characteristics that pique the interest of collectors. Die variations, minor doubling, or unusual wear patterns can all affect a coin's value. In rare cases, errors such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into a collector's gem. But even without dramatic errors, there's a quiet nobility in these old coins that survive in pristine shape. Imagine holding a penny that hasn't aged, that still shines with its original luster. That's not just a coin, it's a relic. And for coin enthusiasts, it's a piece of a larger puzzle, understanding America through its coinage. If you happen to have a 1974 D penny in this top-tier condition, its value jumps significantly, not because of intrinsic metal content, but because of collector demand. Collectors value the coin's eye appeal, strike quality, and how well it has survived over 5 decades. In that sweet spot of numismatic beauty and historical value, this humble penny starts to shine, and then there's the story of discovery. Maybe it came from your grandfather's old coin jar, or you stumbled upon it in a flea market bin. Maybe it was buried deep in your childhood piggy bank, lost among newer coins that have come and gone. However you find it, there's a thrill in realizing you might have something special, something worth more than you expected. It's fascinating how a coin so small, so seemingly insignificant, can connect you to a moment in time. 1974 wasn't just any year. It was a crossroads. And the penny minted in Denver during that moment represents more than just a monetary unit. It symbolizes a nation in transition, adapting to changing times and trying to find its footing amid economic and political turmoil. And that brings us to the big reveal. Some collectors have paid as much as $115 for a 1974 D Lincoln penny in superb condition. That's right, 1 cent, upgraded by time and preservation, is now worth $115 to the right buyer. Not because of its metal content, not because it's rare in the sense of mintage, but because it's rare in the way that matters most to collectors: condition, history, and presentation. Because hidden among the billions, there may be a copper-colored time capsule, waiting for someone to recognize its worth, not just as currency, but as a story. A whisper from the past. A testament to the idea that even the smallest pieces of our history deserve to be remembered, cherished, and passed on. And who knows? That penny in your hand might just be worth a whole lot more than 1 cent. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting.